In this problem, we are asked to solve for the variable t, given that 3t times a quantity of 3t minus 4 is equal to a negative 4. One way to approach this problem is to simplify the left-hand side by using the distributive property. Using the distributive property, we will get the following. We will have 3t times 3t, or 9t squared. Then we have 3t times a negative 4, or a negative 12t, and that is equal to a negative 4. Since we now have a quadratic equation, one way that we could try to solve for this quadratic equation is to set it equal to 0 and try to factor it. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides of my equation in order to set it equal to 0. I would get 9t squared minus 12t plus 4 is equal to 0. Looking at this quadratic, I am going to try to factor it, and one way I could factor it is using that factor by grouping. In the factor by grouping, again, I am looking for two numbers whose product is equal to 9 times 4, or 36. I am also looking for those numbers to add to that middle term, which is negative 12. So two numbers who multiply to a positive 36 but add to a negative 12 would be negative 6 and negative 6. So I can rewrite that middle term, negative 12t, as negative 6t minus 6t. So I would have 9t squared minus 6t minus 6t plus 4 is still equal to 0. In order to factor this by grouping, I am going to group my first two terms and my second two terms and factor out the greatest common factor in each one of those terms. Looking at 9t squared minus 6t, I can see the greatest common factor is 3t. What I am left with when I factor out 3t from both terms is 3t minus 2. Likewise, when I look at the terms negative 6t plus 4, I could factor out a negative 2 from both those terms. Factoring out a negative 2 from negative 6t would leave me with a positive 3t, and factoring out a negative 2 from a positive 4 would leave me with a negative 2. Now I can see the common factor of 3t minus 2. Factoring that out from both terms, I am left with 3t minus 2. I can see that I have 3t minus 2 times 3t minus 2 is equal to 0. Using the zero product principle, this would tell me that 3t minus 2 must be equal to 0. Since my two factors are the same, I can see that I have only one solution. Solving for t, I would add 2 to both sides, giving me 3t is equal to 2. Finally, if I divide both sides by 3, I am going to get t is equal to 2/3. I want to verify this is indeed my answer. That means I'm going to substitute in 2/3 into my original equation to see if I get a true statement. Doing this, I would see that I had 3 times 2/3 times a quantity of 3 times 2/3 minus 4. And I want to see if that is indeed equal to a negative 4. Well, let's look at each piece. 3 times 2/3 is the same as 2. Again, I would have 3 times 2/3, which would be equal to 2, and I would have 2 minus 4. Now I can see that I have the same as 2 times a negative 2, which is indeed equal to a negative 4. Verifying that t equal to 2/3 is my solution to this quadratic equation.